I'm sure you're familiar with that. When you are at the game show, the chosen player, chosen to play their game, the announcer will call you and they run down the aisle. Well, God has chosen you to be His child. And guys call your names, so and so, come on down. You're chosen to be my child. It should be the most exciting time of your life. You know, you're chosen by the creator of this world. You're chosen by the Lord of Lords, God of all gods. There's only one God. But, you're chosen by God, who is amazing and who is powerful. You're chosen. And when you become God's child, when you're born again, another means, not only you get to go to heaven, you have ticket to go to heaven. Not only that, but you get to have fellowship with God. You get to talk with God. You get to mingle with God. You get to walk with God. You get to run with God. Think about that. That is such a blessing right there. But this does not mean you should live your life whatever you want to live. There's a certain standard, there's certain criteria that God wants you to live by. But keep this in mind. You don't live what God wants you to live. You don't live the standard where God wants you to live on your own strength. When you hear, oh, I have to live by God's standard. Wow, that's high. That's difficult. That's no way. I can't do that. That's impossible. Well, you don't get to do that with your power, but you get to do that with God's power, God's strength, God's wisdom. You get to do it with God, not just by yourself. That's why we're able to live God's standard. Just keep that in mind as you listen to this message for today. I remember this Korean drama that I saw a long time ago. It was about the former president Park Chung-hee. He was the president of South Korea during 1960s and 70s. And one segment showed his conversation that he had with his son, Park Ji-man, who was a high school student at the time. Park Ji-man was known as a troublemaker as a teenager. And in this one segment, he did something bad. He got into trouble. And then he has done something that he shouldn't have done, and his father found out about it. And this is what Park Chung-hee, the father, said to his son. He was upset, and he was, he was very strict. And to his son, you're a present son. Act like a present son. That throughout that show, that really stuck out. For some reason, that really stood out. Son, you're a present son. Act like a present son. In today's passage, Jesus tells his followers, Christians, act like salt and light in this world. Another way of saying is, Christians, live like salt and light in this world. What does it mean to live like salt and light? Well, let's look at that today. So first point for today's message says, I'm just going to talk about salt. Salt. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, Jesus says this, you are the salt of the earth. You are the salt of the earth. To understand what Jesus is saying, we have to understand what salt was like in the first century Palestine. Back in those days, salt was highly valued. It was so valued that, and still is. So my mother-in-law made steamed potato. She steamed potatoes. And I got a couple of those and sprinkled some salt on it, and I ate it. Man, that thing tastes so much better with salt. Salt can make a big difference in taste. Food tastes so much better with salt. And have you ever tried certain food without salt? It's kind of bland, tasteless, but you add just a little bit of salt, you sprinkle a little bit of salt, it makes a huge difference. Salt changes the taste of food. Salt influences the taste. When Jesus said we are to be the salt of the earth, What he's saying is that we should be the influencer of this world.